you want to do is you want to be so good at what you do in your area and have an abundance of clients that by the time that USD client comes to look at you, you already have systems and processes in place. You already have revenue streams. You're not desperate. You're not coming to them saying, oh, please, I live in Kenya. Can you give me some of your currency? You're coming to them saying, we are the best at this in Kenya. You're coming to give me money because you know we're the best at this in Kenya.
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Growing Out Loud with your favorite host, Daisy Kater. Drum rolls, please. Thank you, first of all, for being here. If you're new here, Growing Out Loud is a space where we have conversations with people who are basically on a mission to grow with big dreams. Actually, our tagline is for the dreamers who do. So this is a space where visionaries come to just learn and feel inspired. And by the time we are done, you just feel like, okay, you know what? I got this, And for those of you who've been watching and giving me feedback and commenting on my posts, thank you. And if you're here to catch up on all the other episodes, I think we have about 6 out. Please feel free to catch up on the other episodes and also just give us your input. What did you take from what we've been doing? What has been your key takeaways? And if there are also conversations or areas you'd like for us to tackle on this podcast, please feel free to leave for us a DM or even a comment. You're welcome. So our handles are on TikTok and Instagram at Growing Out Loud. I'd love to see you over there. So today I am joined by my friend Sean. And Sean, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. I do actually want to interrupt if you don't mind.
We've barely got it started.
I know, but I love your tagline, Dreamers Who Do.
Yeah.
And the reason why I love that is that I believe the difference between inspiration and innovation is execution.
Yeah.
So we can all dream, but the way you change the world is by actually doing something. So I love that you have that tagline.
Thank you. So, Sean, this has been a long conversation and it's taken time for us to actually get you to sit here. I'm glad we're finally doing this. Could you please tell my audiences who Sean is and what Sean does?
Yeah, so there's a couple different sides of me.
Okay.
But I'd say ultimately, I'm a Nigerian American. I was born in the States, but both my parents are Nigerian, so I have a heart for the continent. And my greater mission is to bring 100 million jobs to Africa over the next 25 years. That's a big task, so I need a lot of support on it. But everything I do kind of goes in that direction, whether or not it's through outsourcing or helping with advising early stage startups.
Yeah.
But, on Instagram, to your point, my name is Sean the Speaker. It's because I spoke a lot. I've spoken all over the world. I've written books on leadership and LinkedIn. And I just truly believe in development. And I believe that even we as leaders, we tend to be the last ones to get developed. We think, okay, focus on your front line. Hey, you were a great employee. Yeah. Let's promote you, but then we don't actually teach you how to be a leader.
Yeah.
So I've made it my mission to also make sure I'm taking care of those leaders.
Yeah. Actually, you know how I got to know you?
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this before, but I used to come across your sponsored ads on Instagram. And you'd go right at it. This is why you're struggling with. Those ads that you've been doing for startups and young. Yeah. So it would speak to me as a young entrepreneur. So I started following you from there. Wow. Then I think I went to LinkedIn now.
Yes.
Yeah, and shared a connection request. And the rest is history. And here we are.
She DM'd me. And what I'll say is this. What inspired me to do that, so she's talking about a series that I had called Advice for Startup Founders. I had an opportunity to go to the Global Entrepreneurship Festival in last November in Akure, Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And it was an amazing experience, but I met thousands of young entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I learned that many of them have great ideas. They don't know the basics of what it takes to get an investor or to grow a business. So I wanted to give it all away for free. A lot of times people will say, pay me for my consultation.
Yeah.
But I decided to create these 10 reels
Yeah.
and just specifically talking to the leaders and the entrepreneurs in Africa and giving out all the information I knew.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were one of the few who came across it.
No, and
Well, a couple 100,000, but
yes. And actually, I remember we went on a call, and I remember expressing my frustrations. There were quite many at the time,
Yes.
guys. And actually had really good pointers that I've actually been implementing over time. I'll tell you about it off camera. But it actually helped me to get to where we are now, right? Yeah, but with that said, let's go back to you wanting to bring 100 million jobs to Africa.
Yeah.
In the next, by 2050? By 2050. Yeah, you actually have that on your website and everywhere, right? What's that about? Where did that even come from?
Well, where it came from was, to be honest, I was working in tech at the time. I was an executive over the customer support team, and I was outsourcing work. And I was invited to come out to Kenya and South Africa in a 1-week period to kind of learn about the talent that was there and the different opportunities. And in that process, I had a chance of visiting a nonprofit who adopted a school. And I met all these young students who were bright and educated, were doing better than I did. Because if you don't know, I was that kid who, although I was smart, I didn't finish school on time. I dropped out. I was homeless, living with friends, living in my car. And I still made it. By the time I was 28 years old, I was a director. At 29, I was a vice president. And I'm looking at these kids, and like they're smarter than me, they're more educated than me, but they don't have the same opportunities I had. So why am I going to be doing better than them? So I'm sitting at this school and I break down crying. And it takes a lot to make me cry. Only movies. I won't cry at a movie. Okay. But and it was just because I couldn't unsee it. And I left there just thinking, I have to do something to help solve this problem. Yeah. Because what I've learned is that when you have an abundance of responsibility, but not enough opportunity, that's where criminality comes. So the best way to stop a criminal is to give them an opportunity. Yeah. And we have to be mindful of that not everyone you see who's doing the wrong things are doing it because they want to. They're doing it because they have no other opportunity. Yeah. So when I, started looking at the statistics, and the reality is 100 million jobs is not enough. Yeah. The continent is doubling. Like the workforce the young workforce will be like 1.4 billion by 2050. Which means we have to find jobs for 1 billion people. Yeah. 100 million is not even 10% of that. So it's something that we actually have to do. And we already are looking at Africa as the youngest nation on the planet with an average age of 19 years old. Whereas where I am in the US and China, the average age is 38 years old. Wow. So when you think about where the future of the world's labor force is, it's here in Africa. And we don't have a choice globally because you're going to start seeing supply chains fall apart. You're going to start seeing manufacturing fall apart because there's not enough labor there because everyone's too old. Yeah. But where is everybody? In the motherland. Yeah. So I feel as if it's not just my responsibility, but it's the world's responsibility to help bring those jobs here. Okay. And just before we get deeper, because I want us to get deeper into that conversation, like how you've said the motherland. And you see, I happen to have been interacting with a lot of African Americans lately. Yes. And you guys say there's something about being in Kenya that just makes you feel like your ancestors are calling you or something. What? Maybe just paint a picture for us. So for full context for me, I've traveled all over the world. The only continent I haven't been to is Australia, and I don't really want to go. And Antarctica, but no one goes there. Okay. But the last place I ever visited was Africa, which is sad because I'm Nigerian. Yeah. But I never went back home because my dad, he passed away a little over 10 years ago, and so did my mom. My dad about 12 years ago, my mom 10 years ago. And I always said I would go home with my dad, So even though I have a lot of my close friends, we're all Nigerian, they go back every year, I never wanted to go without him. So I just never went. Okay. So, most of my travels for business. So when I was invited to come out, the first place I ever visited in Africa was Kenya. And the first thing that stood out to me was the culture is very different from West Africa. Okay. I'm Nigerian. We're loud, we're boastful, we're prideful. we're loving people, but our culture is just very confident and aggressive and assertive.
Mhm.
And here was the exact opposite, where it was more reserved, more cerebral, more welcoming and open. It just felt as if I was home, from
Okay.
day one. And then I had the chance to go to South Africa, and very different culture there too, but still not West African.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's something about being here. And I think with Nairobi in particular, there's nowhere on the planet that's more social. Where
Okay.
any day of the week you can walk out your house and just start meeting people and getting to know them and communicating. Where some places you go, people are more reserved and they don't want to know you.
Yeah.
Here, everyone's excited to know more about you.
Yeah.
And you can build an amazing network to not just do business, but to also have close friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And I also hear, this is me, I guess, looking for validation. But that is, how would you compare? Actually, I was asking you this before we started the conversation. No, we're not comparing, but what's the talent like in Africa
Yeah.
compared to other parts of the world in your experience?
Yeah, each part of the world's going to have its own special thing they're really good at, and also the challenges they're going to have.
Yeah.
In addition to that, within those parts of the world, you have regions that are very different. So if I go to the US, for example, New York culture is not the same as LA culture, very different. Also, New York and Boston are very close to each other, but they're very different. So you have to also be aware of that. But I'd say this in general.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work in the Philippines. The Philippines has kind of become the outsourcing hub. You kind of have India and the Philippines as the big two, and Latin America has picked up as well, but it's more countries than that.
Yeah.
And the difference is that I love Filipinos. I feel like I am Filipino, but they have a culture where they're just as nice as East Africans, but they tend to want to make sure you're happy, which means they don't always tell you the bad news, or they want to follow the instructions to the T and they don't necessarily want to go outside of the parameters.
Okay.
What I love about the talented here is typically you're going to see more education, where we're having higher levels of degrees. But on top of that, they're problem solvers. They're going to look for solutions if it doesn't make sense. Then they're also here, you're open, willing and open and say, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And kind of challenge the thought process.
Yeah.
So that's so important, especially when you have a customer base who's looking for somebody who can help solve their issues, whether it's dealing with, frontline customer experience or if it's dealing with back-end engineering.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I'd like for us to talk about startups. Like you said, you are doing a series to just help young startup founders. And I happened to watch one of the podcasts that you are in.
Yeah.
And you talked about the need to have a co-founder.
Yes.
You can't do it alone.
You can't. So a business is really like a marriage.
Okay.
And I say that because the ultimate point of marriage, and you can argue with me on this, but the ultimate point of marriage is to raise a family.
I wouldn't know.
Okay. And when you raise a family, then the family expands. You have more children. You have more to this. It becomes like a dynasty.
Yeah.
A business is the same way. And typically, a business will do better when there's two minds instead of one. Because what needs to happen is, let's say we're talking in tech.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have your CEO whose job is really focused on the company vision, the mission, and really selling in the beginning. Their job is kind of like the chief marketer. You're out there marketing the business, but primarily to investors.
Yeah.
You're really trying to get the attention of investors and say, here's what we do, here's why we're doing it, and here's what we're going to execute. And you're marketing to future employees. Whereas the other mind you need is a technical co-founder. That's the person who understands how to build the product, how to edit the code, how to make sure it's up and running. So you have the person who's focused on building and the other person who's focusing on kind of promoting. So even if you are technical, I always recommend have a technical co-founder, because you can't do both. Because then you become a bottleneck in the company and now everything's going through you.
Yeah.
So in any industry, even if you're not in tech, try to maybe find a chief business officer. This is the person who really understands how to set up the business. So yeah, co-founders are so important. It just depends. You don't always have to have one.
Okay.
But when you're wanting to scale fast, that's when you need one.
And I noticed even when you're pitching to investors, they'd ask and they'd say, we want a mini. It can't just be one person.
Yes. The team is just as important as the product, if not more important.
Yeah.
Because what investors see is that you can have a decent product, But if you have a great team behind it, that great team can have that product go to the roof. You know, we've all had, whether it's food or clothing or technology that wasn't that good, but the marketing or the team behind it was so good at pushing it that they execute it. And if that idea is not good enough, they're confident that this team will find a new idea that's even better. So that's why investors are always looking at, I'm investing in the person, not necessarily the company.
Okay. And you said something else that stuck with me as well, which is a lot of us are usually running around. Actually, I was making a joke and saying the techies here in Nairobi, the startup founders, tech startups. Those guys are broke. And they're broke. They're constantly running around trying to get 50 million KS, 100 million KS, right? But you said something. You said it's better for you to get advisors as opposed to trying to get money and funding. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, a good reason as to why you're not getting the money is because you don't have a team that knows what they're doing. You know, so I say getting an investor, the best advantage of having an investor is not the money they give you. It's the information, because they can give you shortcuts. They've already seen what you've done before. And it's the network. They're going to give you access. So I'll give you an example. There is a startup that I advise in Ghana where, I won't give too many details, where if they were to focus their products on the university system, they would do so well. They would scale so fast. So I said, on your board, you need to have an advisor who's in the education center, who's in the university system, somebody that's respected and trusted, because now they can actually open up doors for you and say, hey, come sit down and have a meeting with this young team. Because their credibility now becomes your credibility. So in the beginning, don't just look for an investor, look for advisors. Now, an advisor is going to be someone who's going to be at your board meetings. They're going to help you with business strategy. They're going to give you everything you need to be successful. You'll have access to their network. They can become an investor, but in the beginning, you're going to give them a small percentage. You're usually going to give an advisor like 0.5 to 2.5% of your company. So it's not a lot of money. It's just enough to say you're here. And when you start raising money, they can probably invest at a lower amount than everyone else, right? So if everyone else is paying $10,000 for 10%, maybe they pay $8,000 for 8%. I mean, for 10% because they have a relationship. So I always say, find those advisors. They're also going to be able to tell you, how do you make your company more attractive to investors? You know, because now they can help you navigate those paths.
Okay. You know, I'm just sitting here and thinking, even with the founders that I've interacted with, I mean, who has a board?
Nobody.
Anyone who has a board of directors, what do you mean? That sounds like a very institution kind of thing to set up, right? And again, I don't know what your experience has been like, but with us, how we look at, I mean, African entrepreneurs, or at least the ones here in Kenya. I'm not speaking for everyone, but typically what I've come to find is there's just a problem that they've noticed in the market, and they have a solution, and they're just trying to figure their way out. You know, we barely know how to put up structures, let alone a whole board. What do you mean? So what would your advice be for someone who maybe just has an idea? Maybe they have an MVP. So you have an MVP. How do you move from that?
Well, what is an MVP?
Minimum viable product?
Not everybody knows that. You have to explain it.
So you have a minimum viable product.
Which is important. If you have an MVP, you're way ahead of the game. Most don't. They have mock-ups, but they don't have MVP.
Actually, maybe they think they have an MVP and what they have is a mock-up. Maybe let's take it a step back.
Let's go back.
To idea.
So idea. So when you have an idea, I'm going to start this business. It's going to be a trash can business where we're going to go around and we're going to have a service that picks up every single person's trash, and we're going to be able to scale it across not just here in Kenya, but all of East Africa, and then all of Africa, and then the world. And they're going to pay me a subscription every month to do this, and it's going to be a great service because we also wash their car when we do it.
Okay.
Great. That sounds great, right? So now you have your idea. Okay. I need you to give me, you can give me a mock-up of what it looks like. You know, now I'm going to go show you, okay, this is what it would look like. Here's how our web design would be. Here's how our app would look. Here's where you click this button and it goes there. And people think that's an MVP. They're thinking this mock-up is an MVP. Like, oh, it's a service. I showed you what my end product will look like.
Yeah.
That's not an MVP.
Okay.
What an MVP is, it's saying, take the simplest thing in your product offering.
Yeah.
Take everything else out. What can you build right now that looks ugly, but you can have customers use right now? So now I'm going to strip everything else out of my app, my trash can app, and I'm just going to have it very simple and have 5-10 customers and say, hey, would you all mind using my app for me and giving me feedback?
Oh,
and it's just going to be one button. You click it and it sets the subscription and it outputs, right?
Okay.
So it's that's really what it is. It's taking that overall idea and just figuring out what can you sell immediately to get customer feedback.
So for an MVP, for it to qualify, you must have customer feedback.
Yes.
You must have taken it to market in whatever way, shape, or form.
Exactly. An MVP is not just a beautiful thing to have. It's not a design.
Yeah.
It's minimum viable product.
Yeah.
It's a product that's been sold.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to board of directors. What do you mean?
Yeah. So the difference between why Silicon Valley is so successful versus the rest of the world, especially us here in Africa, is that they have boards early. These young guys, young girls, when they're starting their businesses in college, the first people that get on there are advisors. They already are getting advisors with them, and they're getting boards. Because when you get your first round of funding, that creates your board, by the way. So you have to, so it's better for you to know what a board is before you get 100 million shillings. And now you have to have a board thrown on you. It's important for you to know, what does your board power dynamics look like? Who has voting rights? Who doesn't? Who's on your side versus who would be against you if you wanted to fight for the company? So a board is very important. But in the beginning, you want to look for your advisors. So I would say, I break it down 2 ways. Your board is going to be you, your technical co-founder, right? But then you also need to have 2 to 3 advisors. And these are going to be folks who, one is going to help you with business strategy. They know it in and out. One is going to be great for your industry. They know your industry really well. And then one is going to be great for something else that you're missing, whether it's technical, whether it's sales. They're going to be that person kind of help you at wherever you're weak.
Yeah.
And that's your team of 5. And you work with those folks in the beginning because that's going to get you to a place where now you have your MVP going, you have it developed, you have feedback. But now after you get the feedback, who do you present it to? How do you find your MVP customers? You need that person who knows your industry, who has relationships in your industry, right?
Okay.
So that's usually your starting 5 you want to work with.
Okay. I'm about to go even deeper into this because you see, the thing is, again, I'll take it back to the local context, right? There's so many young people with ideas. We are full of ideas, right? So before you present it to this 45-year-old or this 55-year-old with decades experience in what you're trying to do, and they actually look at you and say, okay, you know what? I will actually take my time and give you the value that you're looking for. What is it? How do you show up to that person and get their buy-in? Because it's literally just an idea.
Yeah, it really, everything in life is kind of a formula. So there's kind of 2 paths you go down. I'm going to go down the standard path first.
Okay.
The standard path is you need to be able to have a great idea. You need to be able to show what is the TAM, your total addressable market. What is that market that ultimately you'd be able to address? So if you're talking about the tissue industry, that's a $10 trillion market, right? So that'll be your TAM. And that allows your investors to know how big this can get and how much market share you can win. And then you want to be able to talk about your revenue numbers, that we believe with this investment, we'd be able to now drive this much revenue, annual recurring revenue. This is what our expenses would be. And we believe that in order to grow, this is our marketing cost in order for a grow, which is customer acquisition costs. So when you know your revenue, you know your customer acquisition costs, you know your TAM, it's really easy to get investors because you're showing them their return on investment. If you know you give me $1 and I'm going to give you back 10, you feel safe for giving me that $1. Where I see people go wrong is they're asking for 100 million shillings and with no logic as to why they need it. And I had to challenge some of them and say, okay, what is this money for? Oh, well, I'm going to put this much towards labor costs. I said, well, let me show you something. You have your engineer at 100,000 when in reality the market pays 25,000. and you just need 2. Why do you have 400,000? Cut that out, cut that out, cut that out. And just kind of being able to break down where you really need the money, because the more money you take up front, the less equity you're going to have. So it's showing them, make what you're asking for make sense from an investment standpoint.
Okay.
And then when you're raising money, you also need to raise 18 months worth of money, because usually you're going to raise 18 months worth of money. That allows you to do a year focusing on your business and then 6 months of looking for new investors. You don't want to always be scrambling to find new investors. So you also don't want to shortchange your expenses, but you want them to make sense. So that's what it really comes down to, is how do you make it attractive for an investor to want to do it?
Yeah.
That's the standard. Here's the world changer. If you have an idea that is so big that it changes the world, everyone wants to give you money. They don't care what you have together. Problem is, that's 0.1% of people who have that idea. And the good thing about African entrepreneurs is we have a lot of practical, we see the world and we see realistic gaps, and we're like, oh, I want to solve that problem. But I don't hear enough of those whoa ideas where it's, oh, the person who invented ChatGPT, oh, the person who invented Uber, Shopify, all these really big ideas. When that happens, all rules kind of go out the window.
Yeah.
Because the idea is so big
Everyone wants
that
a piece
everybody
of the
wants a
cake.
piece of it. Yeah.
Okay. The thing about me is I use this podcast to present my own pain points as Daisy, as a young entrepreneur. And I was telling, I think, Kinashiro earlier, that I am a first generation entrepreneur.
Yeah.
To me, that I've not seen anyone in my family or even people close to me really doing business, right? So it's a lot of just figuring it out as you go. And I think it goes back to the need to having a co-founder, because I'm here trying to get clients.
Yes.
Once you get said clients, you're here trying to now get the work done. Getting clients is a full job by itself, right? Actually delivering on the clients is another job by itself. I have never led teams before, right?
Yeah.
This is all new. Everything is new, basically. And it can be quite overwhelming. There's no time to sit and think, oh my God, Daisy, how are you truly? You know? By the time you're asking yourself that question, you're deep in the trenches of anxiety. And things are just bad, and you're constantly burnt out. It's just overwhelming, you know? So how do young people navigate that? And you realize we don't have the luxury of having big teams of just where you can just tell them, hey, do this.
Yes.
You do that. Let me go take 3 months. I'll be back.
Yes. Not yet.
Not yet, at least. We're deep in the trenches.
Yeah. One, thank you for sharing that, because it's not easy. I think too many times from the outside looking in, you see success or you see ambition, you see someone who's out there fighting to make things better.
Yeah.
They have it all together. It's easy. Oh, I want to be the boss. I want to have my own business. And not knowing the struggle and the sacrifice of having to go and hunt every single day.
Yeah.
And how there's people who depend on you.
Yeah.
So there's a different level of pressure. I always say this, whether you are an employee or an entrepreneur, you have to remember that you yourself are a business first. You Inc. So
the book.
Well, I haven't written it yet, but but you have to remember that. I think a lot of times we just think, I work for this company or I own this company, but we forget that. Like, you always talk about your personal brand.
Yeah.
You are your own company. So who are your board of directors?
As Daisy.
Yes. So when you talk about advisors in a business, right? You're going to have your investors, you'll have your consultants, you'll have your advisors. When it comes to your personal life, you need mentors. A mentor is just an advisor that's focused on you instead of your business.
Okay.
And a lot of times your mentor can kind of be a little bit of a therapist to you too.
Yeah.
But when you work for a company, for example, you're going to have a leader that's over you. You're going to have common goals. Your leader, his focus is making sure that you hit their goals, make sure they hit their goals. So most of your conversations are going to be, have you hit your goals? But a small percentage will be, how are you doing? Whereas your mentor, you are the goal, because you don't have common goals. The common goal is focusing on you. So all of your time with them is, how are you? How do we get you better? How do I close the gap for you? So whether you have a leader in your life or not, you also need a mentor. Your leader and your mentor won't always be the same person.
Yeah.
So even as a young entrepreneur, have advisors for your business, but also think, who are the mentors in my life to mentor me as a CEO that can help me see around corners that I can't see yet? So even my advice to you in this moment would be, I don't think you need a co-founder, but I think you need to start thinking about having like a head of operations.
Okay.
Because the way your business is structured, co-founder is not necessary and you're too far into it, but you need someone who can be the operations while you're able to be the brand, right? And there's ways to go about doing that. It's about finding the right compensation incentive models for them, but figure out what are the things that don't energize you. So I want you to write an entire inventory of everything you do for the business, inventory that everything your employees do for the business. And then I want to circle the things that you love to do and circle things that you never want to do a day in your life. And then create standard operating procedures and hire someone and make sure that those things get done. And that's going to free up your time dramatically.
Thank you.
That'll be 500,000 shillings.
Oh, wow. From the outside looking in, of course, there's gaps that we as African talent have, right? So in your opinion, what is it that we could do to just be better and actually compete with global talent? Yeah. What are the gaps that we have and how can we close them?
My personal opinion, so, I'm not saying it's fact. I think the biggest gap is just business acumen. If you're ever in leadership and you're growing to the executive level, that's a big thing. Then everyone's going to ask you, what's your business acumen? Does he have good business acumen? And it's really understanding how business works. In advising a lot of folks across Africa, it's just very apparent that people will come to you and say, hey, I want you to invest in my business. Like, that's not a good business acumen, right? Or they'll have the pieces around it, but they don't actually have the foundation. They don't understand how to build it. So the more you can study business, the more you can study how are these companies structured, not what did they have and not what did they sell. A lot of times it's they sold for this much, they raised this much money, but no one's looking at the organizational structure.
Yeah.
What if you're looking at Stripe, have you gone and looked at how they've set up their supply chain, how they set up their leadership structure, their team, the dynamics? That's what's most important, is really trying to figure out what are those pieces behind the curtain that make the whole thing run. I think if we can focus more on that, we'll do well.
Yeah.
That's what we can control.
Yeah.
What we can't control in Africa is when you're in a position where you don't have the jobs, you don't have opportunity, you're in survival mode. Entrepreneurs don't really do well in survival mode. Employees don't do well in survival mode. We think we do because we can create. But what ends up happening is that you start making decisions for your business out of desperation, And that's why when I look at places like this, I'm saying this is an emerging market. How do we bring more jobs here? Because the best entrepreneurs come from a stable mind. If I'm making decent money at work, I'm able to afford a good lifestyle, not a great lifestyle, but enough where I don't have to worry about my basic needs.
Yeah.
I now have the mental capacity to now create a new company. On top of that, I now have I can be my first investor. I can say, you know what, let me go pay for Canva and get the better version. I can pay for certain things to help me out.
Yeah.
Because you were ultimately your first investor. So that's why I believe bringing jobs is step one. If you can bring jobs, that unlocks the rest of the market. That's not in our control here because we just don't have enough of those opportunities.
Okay. And the $1 million question. Every young Kenyan wants to be paid in USD or euros. How do we get global clients? How do we get to be paid in USD? Where do I find these USD clients from?
Oh, man. So I'm going to tell you this. The $1 million answer, stop.
Of course you'd say something.
Don't worry about being paid in USD.
Okay.
Don't worry about being paid in GBP, whatever it may be. Don't even worry about the money because clients can sense that.
Oh.
And you tend to attract what you're looking for. So if you're anxious about how do I get more money, you're going to attract people who are also anxious and they're worried about, is this person trying to take my money? You're attracting people who are afraid to give money because you want it so bad. So you want to really set yourself up and say, how do I add the most value?
Yeah.
The people who add the most value can charge whatever they want. I will pay you 10x the next person because the value is there. Everything has a return on investment. How are you taking care of people? And the way you do that, in my opinion, is you create a radius. When you're doing something so great, you start small, you start in your area, and you start building up. And it's like a thick tree. When you grow too fast, sometimes you have a really thin trunk. Any wind that comes blows you over.
Yep.
And a lot of times what grows you fast is you have one USD client and they're your biggest revenue driver. And that one client goes away, it's gone. What you want to do is you want to be so good at what you do in your area and have an abundance of clients that by the time that USD client comes to look at you, you already have systems and processes in place. You already have revenue streams. You're not desperate. You're not coming to them saying, oh, please, I live in Kenya. Can you give me some of your currency? You're coming to them saying, we are the best at this in Kenya. You're coming to give me money because you know we're the best at this in Kenya.
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
I love it. Yeah. There's no shortcut, guys. There really is no shortcut. You have to lead with value first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's true. I've also come to appreciate that how you present yourself to these people is exactly how they'll treat you. So if you go there with confidence and you know what it is you're doing, even when you charge what you think is an insane amount of money, they're like, okay, when are we starting? When are we getting started, as opposed to, so I've been trying to do this thing and, it'd be nice if I could have you on board,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
People chase success, which is messed up. If you are a famous celebrity and you come to my store, I'm going to give you a free shirt, free clothing. You have all the money in the world.
You don't need it.
But you don't need it. But the fact that you'd wear my stuff is actually more valuable to me than you giving me your money.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to kind of start thinking about it. I'll give a very practical example. There's a young man named James in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. He does web design.
Shout out to James.
Web design, brand design, all that, but he primarily web design. And the way he started, he did a lot of freelance work, etc. But he gave value to a friend of mine who, even though she lives in the States, she goes back home and does a lot of business. And he did a website for her, but the website quality that he did was better than anything I've ever seen. And then he even helped her with all of her documents. And I'm pretty sure she paid next to nothing for any of that. Since then, we've sent him over 10 US clients.
Wow.
Each one paying thousands in USD. You know what I mean? Because his quality of work was so good that he just helped the right person at the right time. And he was helping her in Nigeria. And then that expanded to help me in America. And that expanded to, we now all see your work. And now we're promoting his work because it's so impressive. We're just so impressed by what he does. We're excited to show other people.
Yeah.
And so that's just a practical example of, you can also find people and make an investment in them and say, hey, I have great talent. You have a need. I don't need all the money in the world right now. I just need the platform to show my work.
Yeah.
Would you mind if I did a website for you?
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And the other $1 million question truly is, AI is coming at us fast, and especially for us as Africans, there's been a lot of conversation going around the past good number of years where we don't have employment opportunities, right? So as young people, we just go out and seek skills. We get skills that we can learn and now offer that as a solution and get money and make money from out of it, right? There's a lot of young entrepreneurs their work is skill-based, right? And now AI is coming and it seems like it's taking away our jobs.
Yeah.
Or so it seems.
Yes.
So what do we do?
That's a good question. In my opinion, I had to take a step back last year and say, what is the future? And I saw two big A's, AI and Africa, two biggest things in the world. There's nothing else that matters for the next 25 years besides AI and Africa. And the reason why is that it's easy to believe that AI is going to come take every job.
Yeah.
But if you go outside today, what can AI do that you're seeing happen in the streets everywhere? All the commerce, all the trading that's going on, people with their own booths and stands, people picking people up and dropping them off. When you look at emerging markets like Africa, it's going to take a long time for AI to truly take over all of that. But in addition, there's always going to need to be human labor no matter what. AI can only do but so much. Robotics can only do but so much. So a part of that is you don't have to be afraid of it immediately, but you need to be aware of it. So two different A's, afraid, aware. Now, I'll say this. When it comes to AI, the best way I heard it explained was we're now going to an age where what you know doesn't matter anymore. It's not about knowledge. It's about wisdom. And what that means is that you can go and chat GPT right now Ask it a question, it'll give you the answer. So it's going to always have an answer for you. But people who are going to be successful are going to be the ones who know how to ask the right questions. Because GPT is only as good as the prompt.
Yeah.
So wisdom, that's that experience, it's a life lessons, lets you know the right question to ask, because you could ask 10 questions to get to the right answer, but my wisdom lets me know, ask this one question, you'll get the answer.
Yeah.
And it's done. So we want to start focusing on our wisdom as well. The other thing that I'm seeing is, and I think we talked about this off camera, is we're seeing more value on our personal identities. You know, if you know anybody that helps with your personal brand, make sure that you do work with them. And the reason why I say that is because whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you no longer can just say, I'm an employee.
Yeah.
You no longer can just say, I'm the CEO of this company. You now have to be the face, because of platforms like YouTube, streaming, TikTok, people are attracted to the brand owner. I want to know the person behind the brand. So you have to start owning it. And AI can't replace you. It can copy you, but it can't replace what people love about you. So think of yourself as a YouTuber now and everything you do. And how do you make sure that you're standing up that version of you? Because there's a lot of right answers for a different question, but how do you make sure that the audience who wants your answer can find you?
Yeah. And I think actually there's Harvard Business Review. There's a research that they did, and apparently 50%, there's a 50% more chance of your company succeeding if the founders are the faces of the company.
Wow, 50%.
Yes, 50%. And currently there's been a rise in, companies where the founders, the CEOs are the faces. Every time there's an update, it's the founder who's coming and saying, guys, so this is what you're doing, you know? And I think from the audiences and the customers, we feel more appreciated when we see,
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, you guys really are trying. You focus on us, and it's not just about our money, but value, and the best person to communicate that is the founder of the company.
I agree. Corporations are viewed as enemies.
Yeah.
Because it's just this big machine, but corporations are just people.
Yeah.
So why not have the top person or top people come out and say something? And I always say, I saw it in the U.S. In the U.S. around 2008 going into 2012, we were going through our financial recession. One thing that blew up was Shark Tank. And what made Shark Tank so great wasn't just that, these businesses are getting investment and we're learning the questions investors are going to ask. What's great about it was that the consumers cared more about the people who were pitching.
Yeah.
I want to know you created your product because your child has eczema and it's the only thing that could work for their skin. So you have a personal story behind it. So now I'm going to give you the money and buy your product because I'm connected to the owner of the company.
Yeah.
So Shark Tank really changed that for us in the US market, where now we almost always want to know who the owner is because it means so much more to us to know that we're connecting to a bigger part of the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And now my final question.
Yeah.
is, so the UN is moving their headquarters, right?
Yeah.
From New York to Nairobi. Word on the ground. Is that how you say vitu kwa ground? Word on the streets.
Or on the streets.
Word on the street is that real estate rent prices are just going to hike. Schools, the good schools, the prices are about to go up. Guys are like, is this a good opportunity or not? So from your perspective, is it a good opportunity for us? And what opportunities present themselves from that shift?
Yeah. So I live in a city that's went through the same transformation. I live in Atlanta, Georgia in the US. And Atlanta, unfortunately, coming out of the recession, we saw a lot of, especially people of color, Black folks lose their family homes. They couldn't afford it. They were foreclosing. And then you saw a new wave of different color faces move in, right, with gentrification. And there was a lot of concern about that because you're almost displacing low income with now high income people.
Yes.
And now the low income people have to move further out and they're not getting the opportunities. So gentrification is a very real thing. But I think we have to also remember that whenever something good happens, bad comes with it too. That's inevitable. But the good typically still outweighs the bad. And what I mean by that is the question becomes, why would moving the UN here increase the cost of everything? The reason why is population, people. Okay, good to know. What drives GDP? People. What drives an economy? People. So whenever you have new people coming in, that money is now being spent where? In Kenya. So that's new money. So that money has to go somewhere. So now they're spending money on the restaurant, on the clothing, on the transportation, on the housing, the people who are cleaning the housing. So it's not just going to be the real estate that goes up. It will be, let's say there's, 10,000 people who clean houses today, but now we need 20,000 tomorrow, but we still only have 10,000.
Yeah.
Those 10,000 people can say, now you have to pay me more because my work is in more demand. So the people who are already here will do well. So my recommendation would be start some type of a service business that you're going to be ready to catch these people when they come, because they're going to need your help, whether it's with relocation, whether it's with just stability in life, whether it's I need a laundromat or I need a restaurant right here. More people are coming. The ones who lose are the ones who don't participate, because regardless, the money's coming.
Yeah.
But how do you make sure that you're a part of the economic transformation?
Yeah. Okay. That was a good way of... that opened my mind up, actually. Thank you.
But it doesn't. But I want to be respectful of that. It's still going to hurt some people.
Yeah.
Everything. It's the same. Even if you were to start a business and it did really well and now it's $1 billion company, you're going to have competitors that go away. So now what happens to those people who aren't part of that competitor company?
Yeah.
And that's just how everything is in capitalism, is that it's like squeezing a balloon, right? One side goes up, one side goes down. But the best thing you can do is be aware of it. Because if I know far enough in advance, now I can participate. It's when it happens overnight that it's unfair.
Yeah.
Because when it happens overnight, that means that the people behind closed doors were aware of it a year ago. And they didn't tell you the information. So now you couldn't even start a business and be ready for this. But you already know it's coming. Let's do something about it.
Thank you, first of all, for taking the time to come here. We've tried to fix this podcast and this episode for quite some time now. But we've finally gotten the chance to do it. And what are you actually looking forward to with regard to creating 100 million jobs in Africa and specifically Nairobi?
Yes. Yeah. So the number one thing I'm looking forward to is that out of that 100 million, I'm hoping we can find 100,000 daisies.
Oh!
Because, and I don't mean the flowers. Because... I told you this before, I'm so proud of the person you are because you'll see something and you'll try it. You'll have an idea and you'll execute. Yeah. You'll create and do. And we need more of that. That's the only way we can have innovation. So if I can bring more job opportunities here and improve the economy, you now have more customers who can pay for your services.
Yeah.
And now you kind of are able to champion the future. So I'm looking forward to that because I believe that once we can get our people out of survival mode, Africa's going to be the most innovative continent on the planet. It already is. It just doesn't get enough attention. Okay. So I'm ready to see what happens.
Okay. Thank you. What's been the most exciting thing you've done in Nairobi?
Wow. There's safaris, there's Giraffe Center, great nightlife, great restaurants. To be honest, the best thing has been talking to the people. I'm very social, and I'll give you an example. So whenever I travel to any of the sites that I support, I like to sit with one of the employees and just a day in the life and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And there was a young lady I sat with, and in between her doing her work, we just had a conversation. And she said to me, "Why do you love coming to Nairobi? Why do you love coming to Africa?" And I just told her, I said, it's like, as a Black person, I've never felt so welcome in my life. It's great. And she grew up, and she told me, she said to me that growing up in Kenya, she's never been a Black person. She never grew up as a Black person.
Yeah.
She's always just been a human, And that's that difference of we as, whether you're Nigerian American or African American, because you don't know where you come from due to slavery, we are so far from our identity. We're so caught up and we're inferior that coming home to places like this and meeting people who look like us but are just human reminds us that being human is enough.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm the most excited about, and I just love experiencing.
Okay, so it's the people.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean, for coming once again. And maybe to our audiences, where could they find you and learn more about who Sean is and what you do? And maybe even, if I were you guys, I'm about to go and just ask him to be my advisor, but they bet they'd like to pitch.
Yes.
How could they do it?
Yes, so you can find me at Sean the Speaker, SEAN, then the word then speaker, at Instagram. Also, you can find me on my website. There's multiple tags. It could be SeanIlenrey.com or SeanTheSpeaker.com. There's also Value-Centric.net. We can learn more about my company and what we're doing as far as business advisement and helping with outsourcing advising. In addition, I'm on LinkedIn at Sean Ilenrey. So I'm very vocal. You'll see me post a lot. I have seasons where I don't, but I believe that using your voice is the best thing you can do, because there's somebody out there who's a younger version of you or a version of you that's several steps behind that needs to see what you've done to know that they can do it too.
Thank you for staying up until the end of this episode. Please do let us know what you've picked from this conversation that we've had with Sean. In the event you have any questions, feel free to let us know in the comments. If there are other conversations or topics you'd like for us to discuss or address, or even have Sean come back and we talk about them some more, that'd be lovely as well. Also, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Growing Out Loud on all social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok, actually. And remember to keep dreaming, but beyond just dreaming, we don't just dream, we dream and we do, right? So I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Bye.